How are y'all today? This is Craig. We're at Goodson Guitars here in Odessa, Texas. We're back in the shop. I've got an update for you on the 1920 Parlor guitar. It's kind of a weird deal. The guy that I was working with on this thing was kind of a go-between for the gentleman that owns the guitar. And so he was telling me, basically what the guy wanted done. And at some point I was told that just do what I would do if it was my guitar, talking about the aesthetics and things like that. And so we had the video where I mimicked the wear on the new fingerboard and all of that. We got tuners and then the guitar itself, the body. It's done. I mean, this thing is back together. It's done. It's ready to go. And then the go-between, he came by and took some photographs and sent them to the owner, and the owner does not like it. So I have to get with the owner himself. I'm not going to use the go-between anymore and figure out where he wants to go. One of the things he said was that he did not like the wear on the board itself. And so I don't know what it is that he really wants to do there, unless he just wants a plain brown board. But evidently they did not want me to do what I would do if it was my guitar. And this is what I would have done. I would have kept it looking as old as possible, but still playable. And so this one's on hold for right now. Today what we're gonna do is I've done a series of videos on making a guitar, or a bajo in the case of the video, and I said I would do a video on how I do my necks and how I join them to the body. And so that's what we're gonna do today. So this title will probably have something about the Parlor guitar in it, so people that are waiting for the rest of that, but you're gonna have to wait a little longer. So today we're going to do how I do the necks on my instruments, and so let's get started with that. In 3, 2, 1. So I rearranged my shop. I don't know, for those of you that watched, this bench used to be facing a different direction, but I rearranged it for reasons that you will see later. But back to the thing in hand. So my necks are a combination of, well, they're bolt-on necks, but they're done with a mortise and tenon, basically. So how I do that, the first thing that you have to do, if you're going to do it this way, it makes your life a whole lot easier, is this area of the guitar where the neck is going to sit needs to be flat in all directions where the neck makes contact with the body. And then, because what I'm going to do is this jig that you probably see in the intro, I'm going to cut a mortise in this area right here, and then the guitar is going to get a tenon here, and then that's going to fit in like so. And the flatter that area is, the easier it's going to be later to mate up this shoulder where the heel and everything comes together. And so now that I've got that flat, I've got my neck roughed out, the first thing we will do is put the neck in and cut that tenon. And there's no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. We do the body first. It's been a while since I've done this. I've been extremely busy with other stuff. So we cut this one first, because the jig that I'm going to use, I got the idea off the internet. It's not my creation. O'Brien Guitars uses one. There's other luthiers that use it. There's different configurations of it, and I'll show you in just a minute. So anyway, we're going to cut this part first, and then the jig will allow me to get the neck angle right. So let's transition over there to that part, so I'm not sounding like a moron and an idiot, which I normally do anyway. So stand by. All right, so we have the body into the jig. We have everything's square and lined up. And I did that by, when I built this, I made sure that this board was square. And then I have my center line. And if I line it up with the center line, and then I can look through, I can see that the square is in line with the body. And that tells me that the body is in there straight. And now we're ready for the next step. The next part is this template that I made on my CNC machine, and I will adjust it to meet up where I want the neck to stop. So my binding is going to come up, I think I did a 1/4 inch on this one. So we'll come in and we'll make a mark for that, because what I want is the heel to come down to just right above the binding. And then, so that means I want my tenon right there. So I'll put my template in and I will slide it up, just looking down until the bottom of that tenon is right above that mark. So now we have it in there, and then we will put the screws that hold it in place back in, and we'll get the router out and we'll cut it. Now when you cut this, you want to take light passes. You don't want to put a ton of stress on the bit or the body, because eventually it might want to vibrate loose. And if your body shifts in here, then everything's going to be off, and then you'll have to find out how good your skills are to fix it. And again, I'm going to check one last time, make sure we're tight. Is that turning right there? Because I do not want this to move. I'm going to give it the once over real quick, looking at it from about far away, making sure we're touching up in the top, which we're good there. So feels good. So let's grab a router. So this router, it's got a lot of oomph to it, a lot of power. Got a collet. The collet's going to run on the template. And when I made this template, I accounted for the offset that you have with the collet and the bit. But the bit in here is I'm all tangled up in it with my mic cord. I'm trying to plunge it down so you can see the bit itself. But the bit, it just barely clears the collet, which is fine. But this bit is, I want to say it's 1.5 inches. So that should be fine. The one thing that I want to look at real quick is, and I'll show you why, the fretboard on this particular instrument, this is a Bajo Quinto, and it attaches at the 12th fret. Which is right here. And so I want to make a mark once I slide this down to where the nut can fit in there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So right here is where my fret's going to go, the 12th fret. So this is where I want it to join the body. So I'm going to make a mark right there. I'm going to measure that mark, and it is just over 5/8 by 1/16. And so that's how deep. I'm actually going to go 7/8 into the body. And then what that will do is allow me to make adjustments on the shoulder to get the neck square to the body, and angle adjustments if I need to make any. So the next part is we're going to go down here. We're going to come up 7/8, and then I'm going to make a little mark right along the bottom. So now I know how deep I want to go. So the next step is to plug the router in and do it. So these passes are going to be about 1/8 of an inch at a time. All right, so what I've done at this point is, and this was one of the reasons for changing around the shop, it gives me another work surface. Because a lot of times my bench is cluttered up with a bunch of junk and I can't really do what I need to do. So I have the bridge glued on using the masking tape and super glue trick. You put down some blue painter's tape on the body, then you put a piece of blue painter's tape on the bridge, a little super glue in the middle, a little activator, you stick it down, and it's not going to move, but I can just peel it off and it's not going to cause a whole lot of damage. So what we're doing at this point, or what I'm trying to show you, is what we're going to do for the next step and why we're going to do it this way, because it speeds up the process tremendously. So again, we're at 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. I'm going to mark that because I'm tired of counting it. So there's my 12th fret, and it's going to go right there. Now I'm going to clamp the fretboard to the body out on this edge, and things are not going to be exact at this point because it's still got some things to do. And then I'm going to clamp that one there, and then what I'm going to do is try to hold this together as best as possible. Maybe even put another clamp off to the side right here. And what I'm looking for is get this as close to the body as possible. This is all relative. None of this is going to be dead on accurate at this point, because you notice I got a whole bunch of neck sticking out here because that's for the tenon. But what I want to look at is, how close am I, and where should all of these things fall in line? Because in a perfect world, you slide this up and it should go, just slide right above the bridge. And I am off by like a minute amount. We're talking 64, 30 seconds to get this neck angle for it to do what I want it to do. So that means when we get ready to put it in the other side of the jig, I'm going to take a measurement down here on this end, and then that measurement is going to be how I want, how much angle I need. So now that I know that I'm close, I'm going to take these two off. And I'm, you know, I am by no means the greatest guitar builder on the face of the planet, but I do what works for me. And this has never let me down. It's always worked out with a modicum of having to, I need something to slide right underneath there. Just enough to hold that in place. Let me grab a scrap. And I'll show you exactly why I'm doing this shortly. Yeah, that should do the trick right there. All right, so now we're all... So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take this straight edge and I'm going to put it on the neck. I'm going to slide it up to the bridge. And without the board in the way, I need to be (7/64). All right, so that measurement will make sense to you in just a second. So let me rearrange the camera and we will go on to the next step. All right, so two things about my jig. All right, the two things you have to remember, and this is about my jig. I need to do what I am fixing to do with the weight of the router on here, because this router is so heavy. Once I get it out over this edge like so, this whole thing leans, and that will alter the neck angle. So I hope that we can see that. I'm gonna check the camera angle real quick. Yes, you can. So what I'm doing is the measurement that we took, the 7/64, that measurement is what I want between the body and the bridge, or the body and this metal bar right here. So I'm gonna take these adjustment knobs down here on this part, and you see how this moves? Okay, so what that's gonna do is give me the proper angle. Another way that you can do it, and I've done this before, is I can take the fretboard and slide it in here like so, because it's the same thickness all the way through, and then I can adjust this until it touches the bridge. But we want to make sure that the body stays flat against the jig. So we're there, and we dropped it, which is normal. These things happen. We'll slide this a little further in so maybe it'll stay. So now we're on top of the fretboard. Fretboard's against the body. The top of the guitar is... So now we're gonna put this bolt back in. And then we're gonna tighten up this end down here. And now we have the proper neck angle for the shoulders. So let me get all this out of the way. All right, so now we've got our shot there. So this is how this part works. The neck is gonna go in, and for right now, I'm gonna move this out because it's all been locked down and it's good. So we're gonna slide this in, and there is a well, it's there. So what we've got is I need to lock this neck in here, and sometimes these work and sometimes they don't. It just depends on how much neck I've taken out. So like that one right there, it needs to be tightened up. So let me go grab a wrench real quick. I use this on all different kinds of guitars. You know, 14 frets, and so, you know, you always have to adjust and get things just right. So, we're gonna go about right there. Bring this one out a little more. So the hardest part on this for me has always been getting the neck straight up and down. And there is a hole on the other side that once I've gone through this process of getting things squared away and locked in, I can look through it and see if the truss rod channel is going down the center of that hole. Sometimes I can even just reach back there and feel, but right now it looks like this needs to come back over this way. And then I'm gonna take my square that I put back up because I'm trying to keep my shop neater. And we're gonna put it on here and see if we can't make sure that we are straight up and down. And we look good. So what I want to do at this point is make sure all of this is tight. I'm even unopposed to going in and putting a couple of these in right here, just to make sure we don't have any movement. And so now I'm looking up here and I can see that my tenon is lined up with my neck. And so I'm going to make sure everything is tight, and then we are going to route this thing. Now, what's going to happen is I got to make that same mark on the depth. So I'm going to go back to the body, and y'all have already seen it. I've just forgotten. I haven't forgot about y'all. I'm just, because we're dealing with like 64ths of an inch here. So I'm going 26 64ths. down from here. So that's where I want to stop. And then just to make sure I'm centered, I'm going to measure from the tenon over to the edge of the board. Tenon over to the edge of the board. And we are at just short of 28/64. So over here, we are just short of 28/64. So we're good to go there. So now we're going to do light passes all the way around and create that tenon down to here. And then this process is completed, and then we will check it against the body. And if we need to make any adjustments, we will. But I'm only going to go down like halfway of my total thickness. And then I can press it against the body, check for the right angle, and then if it's off one way or the other, I can adjust the swing board, and then when I go ahead and make the rest of the cuts, it will square it all up and get everything at the right angle. So we're just going to go halfway. We'll pull this thing out and make sure we're good, and then we'll move forward. So everybody get your ear protection on, and we'll see if Craig doesn't lose a finger. Take that, Safety Sam. I brought it up before I turned it off. All right, so I went a little deeper than I wanted to. So, you know, so here's hoping that it's exactly right. But what I am going to do after I hack up all this mahogany dust, yeah, I should be wearing a face mask. I'm going to mark a line down the side of this neck right here, and that will help me line things back up. And then I usually erase those marks after, so I can do it on the next one. Now the jig that O'Brien used and the one you get from LMI, it's got some dowel rods that fit into your truss rod channel. But in all honesty, I never could get them to line up. It was always throwing things off, so I just don't use them. So let's pop this out of here and see how she fits in the guitar. In the course of editing in the video, I realized that my mic had quit working, so I'm doing a voiceover. So here what I'm doing is I'm fixing to test fit the neck into the pocket. It slides in, it's good and snug, everything works great. So it was sitting a little proud, which is fine, because one of the processes that I do is put it into a different jig, and then I will sand everything good and level. That way I have a nice even plane all the way up, and that's kind of what I'm motioning there with my hand. The next process that I'm gonna do with the guitar is clamp the neck on, adjust the fretboard to where it will be sitting when it gets glued on, and then I'm gonna check the plane of the neck to make sure that I have the right angle, and if that comes out good, then we're probably gonna be finished with this one. It looks like, you know, I kind of know what happened because I was there making the video, and it comes out fine. So I'm going to take a minute to tell everybody I appreciate y'all watching, and would really appreciate y'all liking and sharing this video. I do want to give a big shout out to the kids at the STEM Academy where I work. They're trying to help me build the channel. So all the 6th grade and 7th grade kids that follow me and all of that, I really do appreciate that. And anywhere you share this video, like, subscribe, all of that, it would help me out tremendously. So I think at this point, I'm looking at it, and I will grab a straight edge here in a minute. Right there, I was talking about fall away, which is something I've talked about in my other videos. But I put the straight edge on, and it slides down, and it just scoots right up against the bridge where I want it to go. And now what I'm fumbling around for is trying to get a hold of some clamps. But anyway, everything worked out on this. I appreciate y'all watching, and we'll catch y'all on the next video.